I emptied the emergency fund I built for 10 years. $42,000, sent to someone who called me her soulmate. 3 weeks later, she blocked me. My son asked why we couldn't go to his basketball tournament. I couldn't tell him the truth. My son asked me a simple question. Dad, can you come to my game? I had to work double shifts to recover what I'd lost. I said no. The look on his face hurt worse than losing the money. I ignored every warning. My son said, "You seem different, Dad." I dismissed him. Now I replay those moments constantly. The signs were everywhere. I just didn't want to see them. 10 years of savings gone in 3 weeks. Every late shift, every skipped vacation, every meal I packed instead of buying lunch. All for someone who never existed. That wasn't the last request. There were more. I thought she was the one. She said she was a nurse helping children overseas. She sent photos, sweet messages, talked about our future. I believed every word because I wanted to believe someone could love me again. My divorce left me empty for years. Working double shifts at the warehouse filled my days, but not my nights. When she messaged me first, I felt seen for the first time since my marriage ended. She said she was a humanitarian nurse. Her photos showed her with children in difficult places. She talked about coming home to me, building a life together. I started dreaming of not being alone anymore. The first request was small, $200 for medicine, then $500 for travel documents. Each request felt urgent and reasonable. I never questioned why nothing ever got resolved. Then the requests got bigger. $8,000 for a medical emergency, $12,000 for a visa. My emergency fund started shrinking fast, but she promised she'd pay everything back when we were together. My son noticed I was distracted. He asked if I was okay. I told him I was fine. I was lying to my own child to protect a relationship that wasn't real. The shame was already building. She said we'd buy a house together. She'd finally made it home, but needed help with the down payment. Another $42,000, my entire emergency fund. Love was worth the risk. Then she stopped answering. First for a day, then a week. Her profile disappeared. The number was disconnected. I sent hundreds of messages into nowhere. She never replied. She was gone. I stared at my empty bank account for hours. $42,000, gone. My emergency fund, my security, my son's future cushion. All gone for someone who never existed. I couldn't process it. I had to tell my son we couldn't afford his basketball camp. He asked why. I lied again. The words tasted like poison. I was failing him to protect a woman who never loved me. My son stopped asking questions. He just stopped talking to me altogether. The silence between us hurt more than losing any amount of money. I'd lost his trust too. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I'd lost everything I'd worked for. My emergency fund was supposed to protect us from disaster. I'd become the disaster I was saving against. Then I met David at a fraud support group. He was 54 and had lost twice as much as me. He looked me in the eye and said, "You're not stupid. You were lonely." Those words changed everything. David taught me to rebuild my emergency fund from zero. It would take years, he said, but the only way through it was through it. No shortcuts, no quick fixes, just discipline and time. I started packing my lunch again. No more buying coffee. Every dollar went into a new savings account. It hurt at first, but watching the number grow, even slowly, gave me hope again. I started talking to my son again. Really talking. I told him I'd made mistakes and I was sorry. He listened. Then he said, "I was just worried about you, Dad." I cried for the first time in years. David said the secret to rebuilding is consistency, not speed. $50 a week, every week. 10% of my paycheck, non-negotiable. It felt small, but small adds up over time. I started taking my son to basketball games at the community center. Free games. Just being there with him, watching him play, that was worth more than any money I'd ever send anywhere. David showed me how to spot romance scams. The urgent emergencies, the refusal to video chat, the overseas location, the promises of love too quickly. I started teaching these signs to others. I joined David's fraud awareness group. Dozens of people with similar stories. We weren't alone. The shame faded when I realized how many people had been fooled by the same tactics. It wasn't personal. It was professional. 1 year after the scam, I'd saved $5,000 back. It was nothing compared to what I'd lost, but it was mine. Earned honestly, saved carefully. My son said he was proud of me. I started teaching fraud prevention at the warehouse. My coworkers listened because I'd been through it. Don't send money to anyone you haven't met, I told them. Love doesn't cost a thing. My son asked if I'd ever date again. I said maybe someday, but I'll do it differently. No more online strangers. No more rushing into trust. Real connections happen in real life, over time. 2 years after the scam, I'd saved $15,000. Still not enough for a full emergency fund. But David reminded me that progress isn't about speed. It's about showing up every single day. David invited me to co-lead the fraud awareness group. The student had become the teacher. I never thought I'd be helping others avoid my mistakes. But here I was, doing exactly that. I took my son to his first real basketball tournament. I'd saved enough to afford it. Watching him score was better than any feeling I'd ever chased online. Real life was happening right in front of me. The emergency fund is back up to $25,000. Still not full, but I've got peace again. If something happens, I've got a cushion. Not a huge one, but enough. My son and I have a new tradition. Every Sunday, we talk about our week. No phones, no distractions. Just us. He tells me about his life. I tell him about mine. Honest conversations. I started a small scholarship fund at my son's school. Not much, just $1,000 a year. But it helps kids who can't afford basketball camp, turning my loss into their opportunity. David said I'd surpassed his expectations. He said teaching others was the final step in healing. I believe him now. My shame helped me become the person I needed when I was hurting. I still think about the money sometimes. $42,000 is a lot to lose, but I've made peace with it. Money comes and goes. Trust with my son, that's forever. The warehouse promoted me to supervisor. More responsibility, more pay. I'm putting half the raise into my emergency fund. The other half goes to my son's future. Building something real this time. I've learned to spot loneliness now. When I feel it coming, I call my son or David or someone real. Loneliness isn't an emergency. It's just a feeling. And feelings pass. The man who sent his emergency fund to a stranger learned that real security isn't in a bank account. It's in the people who love you, the habits you build, and the peace you find. I'm rebuilding both my money and my life. One honest day at a time.